Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to let some of our folks come in. As they come in, we'll mark them off as attending. I don't know if it's allergies or the cold my grandson gave me, so my voice is a little not great today, so please excuse that. Come on up. All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the House Game and Fisheries Committee to order. Aaron, will you do a roll call, please?
Chair Kulik.
Here.
Rep Davison.
Leave.
Rep Doherty.
Leave.
Rep Gintz. Rep Haddock. Rep Harris. Rep Hohenstein. Rep Inglis.
Leave.
Rep Kazim.
Leave.
Rep Matsey.
Leave.
Rep Mursky.
Leave.
Rep Rusnick.
Leave.
Rep Steele. And Rep Young. Chair Maloney.
Here.
Representative Anderson. Rep Banta. Rep Cook. Rep Devanzo.
Leave.
Rep Kerwin.
Leave.
Rep Kuzma. Okay. Rep Labs.
I want to leave.
Rep Olsummer. Rep Reichert. Rep Smith. And Rep Whitling. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. The purpose of this meeting is to receive the 2024 annual report from the Pennsylvania Game Commission. We're going to take 15 minutes, if you can do this in 15 minutes, please, for your summary of the report. We all have the reports. The reports were timely filed. So members, you should have had your reports for quite a while already. We will then take a half hour for questions or comments from members. Members, please make sure that your questions or comments are relevant to the report. We'll be hearing from the Executive Director, Steve Smith. Again, we're going to hold all questions or comments until after Director Smith's testimony. I want to welcome any of the members from the Game Commission who are here. Thank you for coming. And Director, let's get started.
Okay. Thank you, Chairwoman Kulik. Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Maloney, members of the House Game and Fisheries Committee. Real quick, I'll just introduce some of those members of the commission that I have with me here today. From our Board of Commissioners, we have Stan Knick, as well as Alan DeMarco. From our staff, I have our Deputy Executive Directors, Dave Gustafson, Kelly O'Donnell, Dave Mitchell, and from our Legislative Office, Cody McGowan and Crescinda Corbin. Thank you for the opportunity to present highlights from the Game Commission's 2023-24 annual report. This past year has brought both significant change and significant progress as we have worked toward fulfilling our mission of protecting wildlife and their habitats while promoting hunting and trapping for current and future generations. The accomplishments outlined in this report are the direct result of the dedication of our staff, the leadership of the Board of Commissioners, and the support of hunters, trappers, and conservationists across the Commonwealth. These achievements are also the product of a strong foundation built on sound science. Maintaining accurate, up-to-date information on the health of wildlife populations is at the core of our management programs. A prime example of this is our elk monitoring efforts, which saw significant advancements, including the collaring of additional yearling elk to study survival rates and habitat use. This is an important step toward understanding elk behavior, movements, and the challenges they face. The use of aerial surveys with thermal imaging has enhanced our ability to estimate elk populations, which is critical to managing this iconic species. Applications for elk hunting licenses reached a record high of 111,597 in 2023, reflecting the strong interest in elk hunting and the importance of managing their population effectively. Similarly, the bear population remains resilient, with 2,920 bears harvested during the 2023 season. We continue to refine our population models and management practices to ensure the long-term sustainability of bear populations while providing abundant bear hunting opportunities. Research on bear genetics is helping us understand bear movements and population structure in greater detail, enabling us to develop strategies that can address bear-human conflicts while supporting healthy populations across the state. And we were glad that so many of you were able to join us last week to see firsthand one of our bear research projects, and I trust you found that valuable. Our ongoing turkey study, the largest of its kind, has provided invaluable insights into survival, reproduction, movement, and habitat use. More than 400 hens have been equipped with radio transmitters, allowing us to gain a comprehensive understanding of turkey populations across the state. These findings will be instrumental in guiding future management decisions, ensuring that we can continue to support this species, which remains one of Pennsylvania's most popular game birds. Meanwhile, our efforts to restore ruffed grouse populations, which have been severely impacted by West Nile virus over the past decade, are showing promising signs of success. Flush rates reached their highest levels since the 2013-14 seasons, signaling that our intensive habitat restoration projects are beginning to yield results. These projects, which involve a combination of forest management and controlled burns, are transforming mature forest into young, vibrant habitats that provide critical cover and food sources for grouse and other species. Through proper management and habitat restoration, we are on the right track to ensuring that grouse populations once again thrive in Pennsylvania. We are also making strides in our multi-year research initiative to study chronic wasting disease in deer populations in Bedford and Fulton counties, where the disease is most prevalent. In 2024, nearly half of the hunter-harvested adult deer in this region tested positive for CWD, underscoring the urgency in our efforts. The ongoing study, which includes GPS collaring and extensive testing, is providing valuable insights into CWD and its impact on deer health. Given the significance of the threat posed by CWD, the Board of Commissioners instituted an extended firearm season in 3 wildlife management units to increase the antlerless deer harvest, which remains the most effective known method for slowing the spread of CWD. While much of our work focuses on game species, our responsibilities extend to all 480 wildlife species across the Commonwealth. A remarkable example of this commitment came last year when the state endangered common tern successfully nested in Pennsylvania for the first time in decades. After having vanished completely from the state in 1985, 2 tern chicks taking flight over Lake Erie was a moment that marked the culmination of decades of efforts to restore critical habitat and reduce threats. But monitoring and restoring wildlife are only part of the equation. Equally important is ensuring that wildlife populations have the abundant and diverse habitats they need to survive. Prescribed fire remains a critical tool for creating and maintaining healthy wildlife habitats. Many species, such as grouse, turkey, and deer, are dependent upon the young forests and open spaces formed by fire. Burning also stimulates the growth of native plants, improves the quality of forage, and provides the cover and nesting conditions that many species require. In the past fiscal year alone, our crews treated over 11,000 acres of game lands with prescribed fire, bringing the 5-year total to just under 60,000 acres treated. Timber harvests also play a critical role in improving habitat on nearly 25,000 acres. By transforming mature, closed canopy forest into younger, regenerating forest, we created environments that offer the dense cover and rich food sources that many wildlife species need to survive. In addition to our habitat work, improving the infrastructure on our game lands, which cover over 1.5 million acres across 66 of the state's 67 counties, remains a top priority. And over the past fiscal year, we enhanced access by improving 79 miles of roads and constructing 21 bridges, making it easier for visitors to explore and enjoy these public lands. Through strategic land acquisitions, we expanded game lands by more than 10,000 acres, creating new recreational opportunities and preserving vital habitats where wildlife can continue to thrive. Two recent acquisitions that we're really excited about. One, Representative Steele, would be in your district, and I know you've been a big supporter of us there, and one in Representative Kerwin's district on Dauphin County. So as we finalize those acquisitions, we'll be extending invitations for you to come out and join us in celebrating the dedication of those game lands. As we work to monitor wildlife populations and create the habitat they need to survive, we never lose sight of our responsibility to serve the residents of the Commonwealth. Our centralized dispatch center is built to provide around-the-clock support to the public. Staffed by dedicated employees, the center ensures rapid responses to emergencies and public inquiries. In the 2023-24 fiscal year alone, it handled over 205,000 calls, achieving a call answer rate of over 99%. While our responsibilities extend to the public as a whole, we recognize the essential role that hunters and trappers play in our ability to manage wildlife. Our commitment to preserving Pennsylvania's hunting and trapping heritage while training and supporting the next generation is a central part of our mission. In 2024, our hunter-trapper education program certified over 20,000 students through in-person and online courses, ensuring that the next generation of hunters receive the comprehensive training that has led to hunting being one of the safest forms of outdoor recreation. 2024 marked the lowest number of hunting-related shooting incidents since 1915, a record that reflects the dedication of our staff, our volunteer instructors, and Pennsylvania's hunters who have maintained high standards of safety and responsibility. One other way we preserve Pennsylvania's hunting heritage is through our pheasant propagation program, which supports the longstanding traditions that hold deep significance for thousands of hunters across the Commonwealth. Last fiscal year, we stocked over 224,000 pheasants across 233 properties in 62 counties, providing abundant opportunities for hunters to enjoy this exhilarating pastime. In addition, we created over 60 managed dove fields on game lands. These fields are carefully maintained through strategic planting of crops and wildflowers. Using practices like prescribed fire and seasonal mowing, we enhance the habitat quality of these areas, creating exceptional hunting opportunities. We are also committed to expanding opportunities for hunters to participate and improve their proficiency with a firearm or a bow, having completed 5 new archery ranges and 3 shotgun ranges on state game lands last fiscal year. With these new ranges, we now have a total of 66 public shooting ranges across 40 game lands, including 30 rifle, 19 pistol, 12 archery, and 5 shotgun ranges. Looking ahead, we plan to open up to a dozen new shooting ranges in the upcoming year. And last year, with a couple of our ranges, as they came online, we were able to get some members out to join us. I believe Representative Banta and Representative Ulsimer, you were there to help us celebrate the opening of those ranges. And as we have that opportunity this year, we sure to do the same. We also launched a private shooting range grant program to support private organizations with funding for infrastructure improvements. This program is enhancing shooting sports facilities by providing financial assistance for projects such as constructing or upgrading backstops, safety berms, target systems, shooting stations, and lead remediation. These improvements are crucial for promoting safe and enjoyable shooting experience while strengthening the shooting sports and hunting community. 2024 marked the first year for this program. We awarded a total of 12 grants to clubs across the Commonwealth, recognizing and thanking them for their work in supporting generations of hunters and making an investment in the future of these organizations. We also continue to provide support to Hunters Sharing the Harvest, which has helped donate over 2.8 million pounds of venison to food insecure families. Pennsylvania leads the nation in venison donations, a testament to the generosity of our hunters. In order to fulfill our goal of properly serving the public, we remain committed to recruiting and retaining highly skilled professionals across all areas of our agency. Our staff often make great sacrifices to work for the Game Commission, and they do so because they believe in our mission and want the opportunity to make a difference for wildlife. This dedication is found throughout our agency and extends to our state game wardens, who frequently serve as the face of the Game Commission. In 2024, wardens managed nearly 90,000 incidents. Among those involving law enforcement contacts, wardens issued 5,435 warnings and 4,415 citations. When cases proceeded to prosecution, wardens achieved an impressive success rate of over 96%. We recently revamped our recruitment process for state game wardens, resulting in a 142% increase in applicants to the Ross Leffler School of Conservation. We graduated 12 new officers in 2024 and 18 new wardens last month, and in just a few days, we will welcome a new class of 35 cadets. Every day, our state game wardens stand on the front line, dedicated to not only protecting Pennsylvania's wildlife, but also serving our communities, as was demonstrated during a recent incident involving an active shooter at a York County hospital. Sergeant Ritter, State Game Warden McVaney, and State Game Warden Murphy were among the first to arrive on the scene, working to secure the building and assist the injured. Their immediate, courageous response exemplifies the bravery and selflessness that define our wardens. I'm sure you will join me in extending our deepest gratitude to these officers for their heroic actions that day. We are committed to providing our wardens with the resources they need to be effective, and we will continue to advocate for equitable compensation that reflects the critical role they play and the risks that they take in the performance of their duties. Taken together, these efforts reflect our commitment to Pennsylvania's wildlife, habitats, and hunting and trapping traditions. But our work is far from done. There is more that we must do, particularly now as we stand on the precipice of such a critical time in the agency's history. Looking ahead, we are committed to making meaningful investments and shaping the future of conservation for generations to come. This starts with managing the Game Fund, which we will do so responsibly and strategically, honoring the trust placed in us by the hunters and trappers whose contributions are the foundation of our work. We are committed to making every financial decision with the long-term sustainability in mind, ensuring that we can continue delivering exceptional service to the people and wildlife of Pennsylvania while keeping hunting and trapping licenses the most affordable in the nation. We will also modernize and enhance our services to better support Pennsylvania's hunters, making it easier to purchase a license, report a harvest, or locate properties open to hunting. By partnering with deer processors, we can expand their capacity, strengthening the final link in the chain of events that starts with an interest in hunting and ends with a healthy, locally sourced meal. Addressing the challenges posed by growing deer populations, especially in agricultural and suburban areas, will remain a priority. We will develop and implement a program to connect private and public landowners facing deer-related damage with skilled hunters who can manage those populations safely and effectively. At the same time, we recognize that our mission extends to all Pennsylvanians, including those who may never flush a grouse or call in a turkey, but still value wildlife and the preservation of natural resources. We are committed to being an agency that serves everyone, ensuring every voice is heard and every stakeholder is valued. We also recognize that our success depends on a strong partnership with the General Assembly, especially the members of this committee. Your insights and participation are important to us as we work to serve our shared constituencies. We also invite you to experience the impact of our work firsthand. Tour a game lands to see a timber stand improvement or a forest floor revitalized by a prescribed fire. Help stock pheasants, participate in a research project, or join us in celebrating key milestones like awarding a grant, dedicating new game lands, or opening a shooting range. Together, we can create a future where wildlife thrives, hunting and trapping indoors, and our game lands remain abundant and accessible. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping it in time. We're going to move to members first, and we'll start with Rep. Haddock. And folks, we have a half hour for this, so let's make sure we allow time for other members.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Smith, you mentioned the game fund, and again, sometimes in these reports, we don't get facts and figures. So the dollar amount that's in the game fund this year in particular, I asked last year about the oil or the gas rights in particular. What is the balance in the actual game fund?
As of right now, that balance is at $460 million.
And in this year's budget projections, what do you think the royalties are going to bring into the Game Commission? Because that's your biggest source of income, correct?
I'll let Dave Gustafson address that question.
Thank you, Representative. So, every year when we go into the year, we have an expectation, and then we see the reality come out. Hang on one second. Revenues and expenditures, oil and gas, there we go. So when we came into this current fiscal year, we were expecting oil and gas revenues to be somewhere on the order of about $80 to $90 million. Excuse me. With the price of gas early in this fiscal year so far, since July 1, it's come in significantly lower. Currently, we're at about $38 million from oil and gas royalties. We anticipate closing out this fiscal year somewhere near, somewhere between 60 and 70 million. It has picked up a little bit in recent weeks. But yeah, somewhere between 60 and 70 million is what we anticipate from that revenue source for this current fiscal year.
Okay, and what, did you do the projections for next year already?
Yes, for next year, with the little bit of a bump we've seen coming along since the kind of the change in energy policy at the national level, we expect that to be back up somewhere between 80 and 90 million.
Okay. And then last year, the reason I ask, obviously our Senate friends tried to, I say steal, they say commandeer some money, and we were able to stop that. And then last year we were here, and unfortunately it was Director Burhan's, and he laid out a high level and just said, hey, we're going to possibly do a shooting range, and we're going to do all this private land stuff. And, of course, we had some serious questions on that. And shortly thereafter, the shooting range grant program was rolled out. And I understand it was somewhat successful, although I understand one area did not apply, and the extension, the time frame was extended to get grants in that particular area. So that was a little surprise to us that the prior director did not have his plan in action to give us definitive answers. And then I understand, Steve, that you actually, he simultaneously was running on the private land deal, and when it came to fruition, I understand it was a little over the top, and you stopped that program. So I guess my question is, with this money and the large balance, what plans do we have currently and going forward so we know what the Game Commission is planning to do with their excess money for the good of the hunter?
Sure, and I'll address some of that there. You talked about the private lands program that Director Burhans had talked about, and as you identified, when I stepped into this role, I evaluated that program and looked at it a different way. I don't think there's any doubt that there was a potential for that program to have a significant impact on wildlife and habitat. My concern, though, was the long-term sustainability of the program, and given especially that it would have consisted of hiring extensive number of personnel. And I had concerns about doing so and moving forward with hiring staff potentially on what was really a one-time revenue windfall. The increase that we experienced in our game fund isn't something that's going to continue to happening. That was a one-time windfall, we believe, due to what was happening politically internationally that influenced the price of gas and caused that rate to go up. So I had concerns with moving forward and hiring staff based on a one-time windfall. Because of that, we scaled that program back significantly, and we've scaled back some of our spending plans. The goal being the way that our approach to managing our game fund and managing finances is focusing on the things that we do really well as an agency, creating habitat on game lands, improving those game lands, making strategic investments and acquisitions on our game lands, and maybe doing so at a slower pace than what was initially envisioned. The benefit being that would allow us to keep this reserve account where it is and pretty stable out into the future. The last thing that I wanted to do is move through that reserve account so quickly that we would need to come back and ask the legislature to raise the hunting and trapping fees. I didn't see that as a viable option moving forward. So what I would prefer to do is adjust our spending, again, focus on those things that we do that are at the core of our mission, and try to make that reserve account last well into the future.
And I guess all that is, and I give you credit for stopping that program, but this is the fiscal report. And unfortunately, this report doesn't have much fiscal. I struggle as a member of the legislature to get a handle on the budget. And I know you inherited a past program, and I'm new myself, so I'm learning as I'm going. And I would really like to see more fiscal at this meeting, because I think that is a lot of the issues that you get a negative as an organization, because I can't make heads or tail of this. And I think we were all shocked last year. We were told it was a concept of a plan, and then the plan rolled out for the shooting ranges. And then even today, you talked, and I'm glad that we're expanding services for shooting. As you said, 12 shooting ranges new?
That's correct.
And any of the current shooting ranges going to be expanded?
On game lands?
Yes.
The existing ones? Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking at which ones of our existing ranges need to be improved at the same time that we're looking for new ones to open up as well.
I know for an interest of time, I'm just going to give a shout out to my shooting range in my district. Guess what we got this past year, folks? A new sign. And we are, a high population percentage to the state of Pennsylvania, and with the advent of growing, and we're giving private shooting ranges money. And here in my backyard, in my district, I got a new sign. And the old sign's still up, by the way. But, and we're moving to bow and arrow ranges and shotgun ranges and that. And it's on a particular game lands, 91, thousands and thousands of acres. A lot of room for expansion, and even if need be, a relocation. So, I hope the new ranges do well. I support that if they're needed in a geographic region. But thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Rep. Representative Olsummer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Appreciate it. Executive Director Smith, I first want to say what a great job the Game Commission did with the shooting in our district with the shooting range for the crossbows and the bow hunters. It was a big hit. I certainly enjoyed that day, and definitely will be back at it. It was I hear a lot from our from the bow hunters, and particularly in our district, and how much they appreciated that, and what a really nice sight it was. So, thank you. To that point, the new shooting range improvement program grants were well received, albeit limited. How will this program progress into the future, and how does the commission plan to advertise these grants? And with the backdrop of looking at the game fund balance sheet dated in your information dated back on June 30th, with the balance end funding balance June 30th, 2024 of the of $525 million. plus with the royalties projected that we just talked about, it seems like, up to my colleague's point, that there's an excess, from my standpoint, there seems like there's an excess amount of money in that fund that could be used. In this particular case, my question is about the shooting ranges and the grants.
Yeah, thank you for that question, and glad to hear that that range is getting the use that we thought it would there, given its location, and again, appreciate you being out there that day. The grant program for our private shooting clubs has proven to be pretty successful and popular as well. This year was the first year, we consider it Tier 1, where clubs could apply and show an infrastructure program of up to about, or infrastructure needs up to $30,000 that they were looking to do, and then we were able to provide some funding to support them. You know, to give you a sense of its popularity, as soon as this idea came out, clubs were writing in. There wasn't even an application form. That wasn't even on our website, and clubs were just writing in saying, how can we apply? How can we apply? So it demonstrated an obvious need out there where this grant is looking to step in and fill that gap, where these clubs have provided an incredible service to our agency over the years. So many of us took our hunter-trapper education at clubs like this. It was the gateway then to becoming hunters. And it's very much in our best interest to seeing these clubs continue to provide that service in those communities, as well as to expand their capacity to make those kind of infrastructure improvements that they need. So it's really a win-win for us as far as being able to recruit and retain hunters, and then for these clubs to expand. So moving forward into year 2, we're going to be, round 2, we're going to be increasing the number that we can potentially offer to clubs, let them do even more significant infrastructure improvements. I believe we're going to still try for around 12 clubs per year. That seemed to work about what our capacity was for this year. But really expand upon it and let those clubs continue to grow. And you mentioned, you know, where this comes from is the opportunity that we have right now with our game fund balance where it's at. In previous years, where we certainly didn't have the reserve account, we could never have dreamt of making these kind of investments. It's only because our account is where it is that we can now look around and see where we can make some investments in the future of our sports. And certainly providing the clubs with these kind of monies is a way to do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Steele.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to start, and I'll keep my comments brief. I see we're approaching the our time limit here. But I would like to start by saying thank you to Director Smith, the deputy directors, the Game Commission staff, the board of directors, and the game wardens for your work, which has directly benefited my family and my community, and the 480 wildlife species that you mentioned that are managed scientifically and cared for by the Game Commission. That's an extraordinary number that is providing an extraordinary benefit to the people that live in this Commonwealth. A couple of quick points on public lands, on Game Commission lands. In Allegheny County, where I live, we are very excited about the Game Commission's recent acquisition there, and we're looking forward to future additional purchases. And that's because not only do we understand the value that exposing kids to hunting has on their well-being and mental health. Hunting for kids is an incredibly grounding activity. We're seeing a mental health crisis in this country. Connecting children to the land and outdoors through hunting is one way that we can significantly combat that mental health crisis. So not only for those reasons are we excited about state game lands, but also because we see the value in stormwater management that can come through these kinds of acquisitions. We see the value in properties that are managed by the Game Commission where we are taking care of native plant species and native animal species. So in Allegheny County, state game lands is an exciting concept to us, and we're looking forward to collaborating in the future. Thank you again. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Rep. Banta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank the Game Commission for the great trip we had with the bear trip. That was pretty cool, and my sons were there along with me, and it's a lot to put on an event like that, so I just want to say thank you guys. We really had fun. That said, we talk about our kids. My boys were along for that ride, and it was really neat. They hunt, and talking about kids in our schools, one thing we all can agree on here, whether it's Monday open or a Sunday hunting, what we all can agree on is hunting. We enjoy the sport, and our kids, we want to get our kids involved more. So by statute, the Pennsylvania Game Commission is required to have hunter safety in schools. Can you tell me exactly what you're doing for that and what the plans are for the future to promote this? Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Representative Banta. I believe the statute you're referring to requires that a school district, upon request from the commission, shall open their facilities for hunter-trapper education programs. And don't have the exact number in front of me, though I believe it's in the report. Approximately 50 or so classes were held this past year within a school district, within a facility, thanks in part to that statute, to that section of the law. So we certainly are capitalizing on the ability to have access to school facilities to provide these classes. I mean, you're exactly right. The young people going through those classes are the future of hunting and trapping, and it's certainly to our best interest to make sure that we're maximizing those potentials wherever they exist. So we absolutely have been using that section. I appreciate Chairman Maloney, his leadership over many years in getting that section written into Title 34. So wherever it's feasible, and I can provide specific data as a follow-up to you, wherever it's feasible for our instructors to have a class inside a school facility, I know they are doing so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As I said, it's a great tradition, hunting is, and that's where it began for me, and that's where it begins for kids. Let's get the kids interested. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Representative Hohenstein.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Smith, I really appreciate all of the work that you've done. I also appreciate that you've stepped into a difficult situation, and I think done pretty well over the past year or so as you've been here. And always interested in knowing a little bit more about what the Game Commission does in habitat and also population management. But I want to shift gears because I do have a lot of the same concerns that my colleagues who expressed issues with how the transparency of the funding and the fund balance in particular. I'm extremely concerned that we're sitting on over $500 million worth of money without any real coherent plan on how it can be either used or leveraged, not just for Game Commission things, but also for the Commonwealth as a whole. I'm going to make a series of requests, and I don't expect you to be able to answer them right now today, but I would like to see some things. In particular, there is a paragraph that you have at the end of the fiscal report that talks about payments to other state agencies increasing by about $2.5 million. I would like to know what all of the different payments to different agencies are, because I know you're paying DGS for facilities. There's some compensation that's provided to DEP for some of the conservation work, things like that. I would like to see a more detailed report of what is being paid to other state-related agencies. There's also a reference to payment in lieu of taxes that would go to local governments. And I would like to see an itemization of that if possible. And one thing I want to just get clear is I believe there was a time and place where some of these were separated out into various and sundry accounts. My understanding is the accounting on those things has been relatively cleared up, but I would like to know if there are existing individual accounts for each of the counties or whoever it is that you're paying the taxes to for each of the agencies. And then the final element is the oil and gas revenues. I really want to make sure that we're, again, being as open as we can, because you can tell us that there's been a 2/3 decrease in these funds coming in. I don't see that reflected in things like the gas, the gas, money I'm paying at the gas pump, right? So I know there is some fluctuation in that, but a drop in 2/3 doesn't seem to be explained by just market factors. So I would like to know where those are happening, if there are specific large accounts in which this is occurring, and if so, why? Because we are talking figures in the hundreds of millions with respect to the drop. I mean, it went from 300 million over that to under 100 million. So I would really like to see a bit more explanation of that. And then one final question that I do want to ask today and have you answer is, what exactly is the restriction on the game fund's restricted fund balance? What are those restrictions? And is there any movement to be able to have some of those opened up so that the Game Commission could potentially provide stronger support for the general fund in the Commonwealth?
Yeah, appreciate your comments there, Representative Hohenstein. First point I'd make, certainly welcome the transparency, and I know you and I have talked about that a lot, and be happy to follow up with you on those questions specifically. And in fact, in your packet, there should be an additional document that we put together. If not, well, I'll be sure to get that to you shortly, because your initial question of what have we been spending that money on is something that comes up a lot, as you could imagine. So we created a document to show our spending to date, some of the things that we've invested in, and that's it right there. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to you about that when we follow up on these. Your last question about restriction on the game fund. Currently, within the Game and Wildlife Code, Title 34, it specifies that the revenue that comes into the commission from hunter-trapper license fees, which we consider the license fees themselves, as well as income derived from assets purchased by those license fees. The Game and Wildlife Code provides that the Game Commission can only use those funds in furtherance of the administration of the agency. So our hands are tied, so to speak, but I can also offer that that's exactly what we would want that language to say, that confines our spending to in accordance with our mission. That's the provision that we have to operate under and are glad to do so. And again, and I'll follow up. I'd be happy to talk to you some more about that.
Thank you, and I do respect that answer. I know it's a statutory limitation.
Yes, and I think there was a lot of foresight that went into that, and correctly so.
Thank you. Maybe this is something, since the members are looking for a little bit more on the fiscal side, maybe this is something we can talk about having a meeting on where you can present the report ahead of time and the members can ingest it, and then we can have a meeting and talk about all this. So
be
if
happy to
that's
do
maybe
so.
sometime in late May, we'll give you some time on that.
Great,
and we can arrange something.
Welcome that kind of transparency, because I think our hunters and trappers deserve to know where our money is being spent, and we welcome that transparency as well as the members of this committee.
Well, thank you. Then we'll talk about that. Rep. Harris, real quick.
Good morning. I don't know that we have that breakout, Dave, do you? But I'll certainly be able to follow up and get you that. A lot of it, as you would imagine, is personnel costs. It's Game Commission employees who are running those crews, leading those efforts. So it'll take some time, but I'll absolutely be glad to follow up and give you a breakout on that. And welcome you to come along and see one of our burns as well this spring.
Thank you. We will have a hard stop at 10 o'clock. Chair Maloney, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For any of my colleagues here that do have historical questions from the past, whatever I can assist you with, I'm glad to do that. And there's a tremendous amount of history and with respect to some of the things that you may not have been aware of in the past and present, which is probably the big reason as to why I'm having a sportsman's listening tour that's going statewide, and you are welcome to get on. And I now intend to address a lot of the questions that came up today and a lot of the statements of this testimony and things that were sort of skipped over. I'll now address that so that the public can have it. There's a lot of things some of the representatives questioned with respect to allocation of money, things that, as they say, aren't really a report. However, I just want to bring to your attention some of the things that can be a struggle, and that is, you know, a couple years ago, we passed the hunter's share of the hunting heritage plate. The hunting heritage plate in itself was legislatively put in place that you would delineate the amount of money that hunters and those folks that bought those license plates and where that money would go. And I'm going to just read something to you as to why it's difficult sometimes to put your hand or handle on what goes on. So the legislative law states that the Game Commission shall ask the governor for approval to allocate that money. The Game Commission told me that they didn't have any record of that going to the governor. The governor told me the office of the governor does not possess, maintain, or control the records that you are requesting. That's from the governor. He also says the Game Commission is an independent agency and not within the jurisdiction of the office of the governor. One of the questions I have for Steve is why would the website, I realize the governor put out an executive order, but why would the website go to pa.gov now when you're an independent agency and the governor recognizes it as an independent agency and you would do that?
Our website has always traditionally gone through the governor's office. We certainly work with them, recognizing that the content is largely left up to us, but the server that hosts the website, we've traditionally gone through the Commonwealth.
So then why would he have an executive order to change it?
I think there's been upgrades just recently over the past couple of months to the website, and that's probably what that is in reference to. But again, the content is within our control.
Well, what I'm getting is it's hard to navigate. Most of the information doesn't exist anymore. And that was a direct connection to the change. So that's why I believe a lot of colleagues have questions when it comes to, you know, some of the things that have taken place. So I'm going to quickly go through a few things that will be sort of from the beginning of your report that probably need a comment. When you talk about the largest turkey study of its kind, what do you compare that to?
Certainly for us, it's the largest of our kind. I'm not familiar with any other study we've done where we've been able to get our hands on 400 hens and put radio transmitters on them. I know other states are looking at our efforts and plan on doing something similar and joining in, but it's a pretty significant effort, as you can imagine, getting 400 hens at this point with radio collars on them or radio transmitters on their back.
Okay. So it's basically within your history of the state is what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay. And that's fair because, you know, for my members that don't know, you know, Pennsylvania has had a terrific, if you want to use that word, viable population of turkey because of a program that was done from out of state years ago. So those turkeys were brought here to Pennsylvania, and through that initiative, which was a good initiative, we did have a turkey population that did well. But as you know now, it's not doing well. And I'll also remind you that we still have a 2-tom turkey tags for the year when the population is plummeting. So I did see that you referenced the rough grouse habitat, which for those that weren't here, I've asked about probably since the day I came here. I know of one specific location that you've worked on that an employee came to me over, but I don't know how many there are statewide. Do you know?
Specific areas where we've done habitat improvements for grouse, I'll get you that specific number, but that is something that we've seen remarkable success with. We've identified areas where grouse populations seem to be at the least amount of risk from West Nile, and it's typically, as you would imagine, tied to elevation points. So we've identified those areas where the elevation indicates the grouse have the greatest chance of surviving, and then we've gone in and done pretty intensive habitat management efforts in those areas. And we're seeing, again, a rebound in population because of those.
But you don't know how many places it is.
And I'll certainly get that to you. I don't have that number.
I would appreciate that because it's important to, especially the history and our bird.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's our state bird.
Absolutely.
So, and I know the habitat piece of it is what nationally every biologist across the country has stated. We know there's a West Nile virus issue, but it has always been habitat. It has always been habitat. It's always been habitat about whitetail, and it's always been habitat, especially about the grouse. So, at least glad to see the verbiage. On a more sort of functional question with respect to the CWD areas, for those that don't know, we are now pretty much killing deer from September 1st to the end of February, which whatever program you want to go into. So be careful about what anybody says about the increasing deer population unless it's close to your development. But having said that, you've identified some newer locations with CWD, and one of my concerns and questions I would have for you is if somebody were to take a whitetail out of that area, how would we know where it went and where those infected organs ended up?
That's always the challenge with deer. That's always the challenge when a hunter harvests a deer is where they're taking it to. It's one of the risk areas that we've identified. That's why from the beginning we've had restrictions in place when it comes to the movement of those high-risk parts because of their ability to infect the landscape.
Well, I'm glad for that clarification because that has always been a problem for the issues. So I would also tell my colleagues, if you would like to see the video, which is now becoming very popular, I have a very good video about the CWD issue that's making its way across the nation into other state legislatures with respect to the question to the science. And it really bothers me as to some of the things that are happening. And to one of my Democrat colleagues, I'd encourage you to get a copy of the book that I just finished, which is basically labeled Our Toxic Legacy, that has to do with glyphosate, which is an issue within the whole nation with respect to Roundup and how it's used and how it infiltrates the neurological functions of animals and humans. And I would challenge you to think outside what you've been told as to where this might be going or what might be happening. And this is something for what I want you to really think about. We have been told that CWD is so toxic. Of course, this scientist will tell you there's no such thing as a prion. So think about this. If the CWD is so toxic and all the body fluids from a whitetail, be it saliva, excrement of any kind, is touching the ground and or being shared, and supposedly the ground is so polluted for thousands and thousands of years to come, ask yourself this: how is the forest not polluted beyond our control? Think about it. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a biologist, but I can read. And I think we all need to come to the realization that something is wrong here. And so I have a question, Steve, for you and law enforcement, for two different circumstances that are becoming very, very hard to ignore in the public. One would be, what's the condition of the deer that was taken from the woman?
You're referring to the Fayette County instance. The condition of the deer, it's my understanding it's at a facility where they are properly licensed and have the paperwork that's required to keep an animal like that,
Okay.
which separates that from where it was originally kept.
All right, I had to ask because I wanted to know about its condition, but I also, and we'll follow up later, I understood that there was licensing and permitting that had taken place with the individual that had it. And if that's not the case, I'd like to have that cleared up. So that's why I asked the question. My other and last question has to do with a shooting, a hunting accident type issue that took place in my neighborhood. And for all my colleagues to understand this, this is extremely serious. I have the pictures. I've actually been told, let them out to the public. Let everybody see it. It's pretty tough to see. It's pretty tough to look at. I even have a video from a duck blind. But this individual, who I know very well, was shot in the head in a duck blind by a police officer. And they were consuming whiskey. I believe they were on their second bottle or finished their second bottle. Here's the problem, folks. The question's coming down to me as to, will the revocation of this individual be lifetime? There's law that gives you, as a game commission, a certain leadway to take care of that. So these are the questions I'm getting, and my colleagues need to know that this is out there. People don't want this man to be a police officer ever again, and they want him to go to jail. So I think these are things that aren't necessarily discussed, but they impact lives tremendously. And I really would like to know if there is a intent to looking at lifetime revocation.
Certainly appreciate that and the concerns that those individuals have. Given that it's an ongoing matter, I don't think it'd be appropriate for me right now to comment on the specifics of what that revocation or the penalties might look like.
But it would qualify, correct?
I would imagine, without having that section of the law in front of me right now, as to what the penalties as far as revocation might be. Certainly, the officer will take that into account when making that recommendation, and then we'll consider it appropriately.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.